If you've been alone for long enough, don't be surprised to find that the best conversations you've ever had have been with yourself. The problem is that you always win the argument. Loneliness is the most honest teacher you'll ever find in life, because it doesn't lie, it doesn't apologize, and it doesn't give advice, but it always makes you reflect on the wrong advice you've already taken. Some say that being alone is bad, but the truth is that being surrounded by fools can be much lonelier. Choose your company wisely, even if it's just your own. If loneliness seems unbearable to you, maybe the problem isn't in being alone, but in the person you're stuck with, yourself. Being alone is the time when the soul looks in the mirror, and if the reflection bothers you, maybe it's time to change your hairstyle. If loneliness scares you, remember that even the moon needs dark nights to shine, and you're no exception. Before continuing, just check if you are already subscribed to this channel, because I am preparing a special series with the best quotes from Mark Twain to help you face life with more ease and purpose. Being alone is not the problem. The problem is if you start to enjoy the peace that the absence of human beings provides too much. Loneliness can be a gift or a curse, depending on whether you fill it with wisdom or with regrets about those who are not by your side. Being alone is like strong tea, bitter at first, but over time it reveals flavors that you would never have noticed in company. If you stay alone for long enough, you may discover that loneliness has a strange taste, a mixture of freedom, fear, and that coffee you drank without having to share. Loneliness is a teacher who doesn't accept bribes, but who offers lessons so profound that you often wish you hadn't learned them. Being alone for too long is an excellent opportunity to discover that you can be the most annoying person you've ever met. If loneliness is a problem, remember that human beings have already mastered more difficult things, such as understanding maps or falling in love with the wrong person. True loneliness is not the absence of people, but the absence of interesting thoughts while you're without them. Being alone for too long can teach you something valuable: how much you hate the sound of silence when it insists on confronting you. If you fear loneliness, you may have never realized how exhausting it is to carry other people's emotional baggage all the time. Loneliness is like wine. It gets better with time, as long as you know when to stop drinking. Being alone is like being in a deserted library. There are endless stories to explore, but you have to make an effort to find the good ones. If you spend too much time alone, you'll soon realize that people are like mirrors. They reflect what you are, but they never show you who you can be. Being alone is the ideal time to discover that the most important person in your life may not be who you thought they were. Solitude is a rare luxury. Only those who know how to understand themselves appreciate it, while others call it punishment. When you're alone for too long, you learn that silence is like a blank sheet of paper. It can be an invitation to create something or to get lost in the void. Loneliness has a peculiar way of showing you that life is too short to waste in bad company, including your own. Being alone for too long is a test of patience and sanity, and the irony is that you only get through if you don't need anyone's approval. Loneliness is like a lit candle. It can either illuminate or burn, depending on how you choose to use it. When you learn to be alone, you realize that crowds are often just a way to escape from yourself. Loneliness is the mother of creativity, but also the stepmother of regret. It gives you time to wonder and time to blame yourself. Being alone is like cleaning an old house. At first, it's uncomfortable, but then you're surprised by the treasures that were hidden in the mess. If you've been alone for a long time, don't worry. Society will always find a way to call you weird for it. Loneliness is a dive into the unknown, where you discover that the bottom of the well can be more interesting than the surface. Being alone is the only way to find out if you're someone worth having around. Loneliness is like a shadow. You can ignore it during the day, but at night it looms larger than you. When you're alone, you learn that the greatest conversations in your life don't need words, just the courage to listen. Being alone is a reminder that life doesn't come with an instruction manual, but you can scribble your own notes. If you're alone, enjoy it. It's the only time your thoughts won't be interrupted by opinions you never asked for. Loneliness is the perfect time to discover how awful you sing, but that it doesn't matter because no one is listening. Loneliness forces you to realize that life is a lonely game, and that sometimes losing is the only way to win. Being alone is the only time when you can admit your mistakes without hearing sarcastic applause. If loneliness bothers you, maybe it's because you treat it as a punishment instead of a well-deserved break. When you're alone, life feels less like a competition and more like a puzzle where you've lost the lid to the box. Loneliness is a library of unfinished thoughts. It's up to you to choose whether to organize them or simply get lost among the shelves. Being alone can be scary at first, but eventually you realize that the true darkness lies in those who have never tried. Being alone is like a mirror. You only see what you're willing to see, and sometimes it's better not to look too closely. If you think loneliness is bad, try a long conversation with someone who thinks they know everything. Loneliness will be a relief afterward. Loneliness is an art that few master. Most prefer to paint their lives with distractions rather than stare at the blank canvas. Being alone is a reminder that happiness is not something you find in others, but something you create when no one is looking. Being alone for too long can turn you into a philosopher, but be careful. Society doesn't have much patience for solitary geniuses. Loneliness is like an old friend, boring, predictable, but surprisingly honest when you need it most. Being alone gives you the freedom to be who you really are. The problem is deciding whether that's a blessing or a curse. Loneliness is like an old joke badly told. It may be painful to hear at first, but over time you laugh just to keep from crying. If you think being alone is hard, try enduring a room full of other people's opinions. You'll learn to value the silence. Being alone is not a punishment. It is a gift wrapped in bitter paper, but with a valuable surprise inside. Loneliness is the only audience that truly applauds when you finally learn to be honest with yourself. If you are alone, at least you have the guarantee that no one will correct your mistakes, except the nagging voice inside your head. Loneliness forces you to face the truth, but it also gives you the chance to invent good lies for yourself while trying to escape it. If the silence of solitude bothers you, maybe it's because you've spent too long believing that noise equals happiness. Being alone is like cooking without a recipe. It can end in disaster, but it can also be the most creative dish you've ever made. Being alone for too long is a gentle reminder that the world will move on without you, but your own life cannot. Solitude gives you something that a crowd never will, the chance to hear the echo of your own thoughts, and decide if they're worth it. Being alone is a rare moment when you can be the hero, the villain, and the narrator of your own story, all at the same time. If you embrace solitude with courage, you'll discover that it's not an enemy, but a guide to the most forgotten corners of your soul. Being alone is like watching a movie that no one understands. You laugh, you cry, and you wonder if someone else could endure it until the end. Loneliness is the best teacher you can have, but it takes a toll on you for every lesson you take too long to learn. If you're lonely and unhappy, maybe it's time to change the narrative. Make loneliness a romance instead of a drama. Being alone is the only time you can truly lose yourself and at the same time, find something you never imagined. If loneliness is a burden, it's because you carry it around like a bag of rocks, when you could treat it like a backpack full of adventures. Loneliness is like a song you didn't choose to hear, but which, in the end, ends up touching your heart in an unexpected way. Let me tell you something important. The simple fact that you took the time to listen to these lessons already makes you the most intelligent and far ahead of most people. It doesn't matter how you listen to these quotes, whether you're washing the dishes, cleaning the house, exercising, or lying down for a moment of rest. If you were able to reflect, that's what matters. Tell me in the comments below, what are you doing while you listen to these lessons? Being alone is an invitation to revisit the forgotten chapters of your story and decide if they are worth writing again. Loneliness is a mirror that reflects everything you are afraid to see, but also everything you need to grow. If you are alone long enough, you learn that silence can be louder than a room full of screams. Being alone is the only time you can face your demons without having to disguise the struggle with fake smiles. Loneliness is like an empty chair at a dinner party. Uncomfortable at first, but eventually you realize that no one could fill it better than yourself. If you avoid loneliness, you also avoid the only time you can learn to be who you really are. Being alone is like walking down a deserted road. Scary at first, but each step reveals a view that no one else can see. If loneliness scares you, it's because it shows you what's left when all distractions disappear. Being alone is a test of endurance that only those who know how to laugh at themselves can pass. Loneliness is a fire. It can warm you or burn you, depending on how you choose to feed it. If you're alone, don't waste the moment. This is the only space where your ideas can run free, without anyone to prune them. Being alone for too long is a reminder that the most important company you'll have in life is the one who looks back at you in the mirror. Loneliness is the only place where masks fall, and the true face of your courage is revealed. If you fear loneliness, maybe it's because you've never treated it like a friend who came to show you what you really are. Matters. Being alone is a pause between life's acts. Use it to adjust the script, not to get lost in the darkness of the stage. Loneliness is the only judge who does not accept bribes, and its sentences, though harsh, always carry a liberating truth. If you are alone, you may have found the only moment when you can hear the world around you without the distractions of other people's voices. Being alone is an art that few master, but everyone should try before criticizing it. Loneliness is like a blank page. It is scary at first, but it can become the masterpiece you always wanted to create. If you embrace solitude, you will discover that it is not the end, but the beginning of a new perspective on what it really means to live. Being alone is like walking in the dark. Each step seems uncertain, but little by little, your eyes begin to see what the light never showed. If you embrace solitude, you will realize that it is not a bottomless pit, but a secret staircase that leads to the highest floors of your own consciousness. Being alone is the only time when you can rehearse conversations that you will never have, but that always leave you with the last word. Loneliness is like an old song playing on a record player. Strange at first, but after a while you start singing along without realizing it. If you spend enough time alone, you may find that the hardest problems to solve are the ones you created yourself. Being alone is not about being lost, but about giving yourself the chance to explore the unknown territory that is your own mind. Loneliness gives you something that company can never offer: the freedom to contradict yourself without anyone pointing the finger. If you fear solitude, it is because you have not yet realized that it is not a prison, but an open field for ideas you never had the courage to plant. If you learn to feel comfortable in solitude, you will discover that it is the perfect host for the most intimate parties of the soul. Being alone is the only chance to organize the disordered thoughts that society insists on messing up. Loneliness is like a closed book. It seems boring until you decide to open it and discover the world that was hidden inside. As you reflect on these powerful quotes from Mark Twain, remember that wisdom is not just about hearing them, but about applying them to your daily life. How many times have you found yourself stuck in limiting thoughts, or feeling like you weren't living your life to the fullest? Each of these quotes is a powerful insight to help you transform your mindset and live a more authentic and courageous life. If you feel inspired and want to continue this journey of personal development, be sure to watch the other videos on the channel. Each new quote can be the boost you need to face your challenges with greater strength and clarity.